Question of a lifetime. When to sell your altcoins? In this video, I want to go over not the right answer because I don't know, of course, but what my strategy is when it comes to selling altcoins in this cycle and what I think is the best approach to take. Because yeah, it's not so hard to make a lot of money in this crypto game, but walking away with it, that's actually something completely different. And I want you to actually pay for the things that you want to pay for and not looking at your portfolio be like, hey, I can pay that, and eventually not be able to. Been there, that sucks. So welcome to the FOMO Factory. My name is Menno. Like the video. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, and let's get right into it. No, you were not playing at 2.5x speed. I took 2.5x or speed. I don't. Welcome, actually. So when to take profits on your altcoins and when to maybe be fully out of the market. Now, there may be some people in the comments saying like, yesterday. In my opinion, wrong answer. What I think is really, really, really important, and again, I don't have the right answer. I'm just saying what I think is best and what I am actually applying. And it is a combination of a couple things, actually. One thing that I keep in mind over everything else, which is most important, is your, well, in this case, my goal. What is my goal? The danger of not having a goal is that you look at the altcoin market, you see it go up at a certain point, imagine, right? But yes, that's what altcoins do sometimes. You see it go up and be like, whoa, this will go on forever. It's so much dopamine and euphoria. I'm fucking high by these green candles. Like, this will never stop. Newsflash, it will stop. It will be a lot of red, actually. You won't like it. So what am I thinking right now? I think that if you look at the altcoin market, there's others, everything in the top 125, excluding the top 10. What I think is, you know, we got a bear market, found the bottom, just like last cycle, bear market found the bottom. First run up, actually, down 60%. First run up, down 60%. Then the actual leg started. But we got a kind of a black swan, down 70%. Tariffs, not really a black swan, but kind of black swan-ish, down 60%. And from that point, it got bought up pretty fast and recovered, and we are somewhere here, right? That's what I think. Overall, we are here, right? We won't keep on doing exactly what we did last cycle, but over a slightly longer period of time, we have been following these steps quite perfectly. So let's not rule out that we have a pretty long way to go, right? And what could happen is that you here feel like if this happens, right? Top, new highs, great. Go down again with, I don't know what this was, like 30%, and you'd be like, fuck, okay, let me sell. And then what happens? Rits up. Be a little careful with taking profits too soon, but take some at least, right? That if we really go down again, that you have something to buy back with. When I look at, or when I think at about taking profits, I think again about where's my goal? Anyway, what is my goal, right? My goal. So my goal is a 3x from this point. Is that doable? Yeah. I think that when we look at the altcoin market, the returns that it usually gives, how high the Bitcoin dominance is right now, how low the dollar is right now, how high Bitcoin is right now, how high the total crypto market is right now, how low altcoins are when it comes to the domination. Same goes for ETH. Does show a lot of strength, etc. I think that that is really, really achievable. It's, however, not that you are gonna wait for that 3x, or in your case, maybe 5x, 10x, whatever it may be, and then press the sell button. What you do is, I hope at least, you DCA in at low prices and you DCA out at high prices. Therefore, I have my GTFO platform. Here I fill in the coins that I have. For example, I have AIOZ. I said I bought it for this price and I want to sell it for this price and this price. Already got 2 selling targets hit on this one, but then these are the other 2 that I want to hit. In that case, my latest selling target is 183. My average entry on this one is 30 cents. Does that mean that I am walking away with a 6x on this one? No, I walk away with a 3.7x, and that's because I DCA out here, etc., etc., etc. You might feel like, hey, these targets are too low, and that could be. Then again, therefore, I think it's important to first have a goal, right? Because if my goal, again, is a 3x, why would I aim for a 10x and have the chance to never get there and round trip it again if 3x is enough for me, right? I don't want to risk that. The goal should be to reach your goal. And if you hit that, then done. But what I'm also doing is making sure that I still have exposure. So with a lot of coins, I have a HODL reserve. So if you look at render, for example, I say that I have 18%, it's all rounded up, somewhere close to 20% left. So after I hit all my targets, which give me my 3x, give or take, render slightly less because it's a high cap, then I still have 20% left in case everything goes to the moon and beyond, and beyond expectations, because that's what crypto is known for. And I don't want to YOLO and FOMO back in later after I reach my goal, because I see that the market is going completely crazy and by the top. So that's what I'm doing at first. Then again, I also adjust my goals a little bit, not only based on what I want or need, but also on what I think is realistic. How do you look like, how do you measure, like, hey, what is realistic in this case? Like, for example, if you look at a very boring coin, but a Cardano, right? If you look at that, you're like, what is realistic? Is it realistic for Cardano that the top is already in? Is it realistic for Cardano that it goes back to its previous all-time high? Is it realistic that it goes above that? Because we had a high here and we had a high 3x higher basically in the cycle after that, because more money flows into the market. Over time, money is worth less. So, what is realistic? I think, that's what I think, we should look at, you should look at the big picture, start there, and take steps back. What do I mean? First, what is the macro telling you? Right? Is the macro telling us that the market can go higher, or is the macro telling us that it already topped out? Yeah, I mean, if you, for example, look at the global M2, let's just go with the global liquidity index over here, right? And this is, of course, not the right chart right here. That's great. Global M2. If you look at this, then you can see that the global M2 is still going up really hard, really hard. And Bitcoin has a way of, being a little later to the party when it comes to that. So that indicates, one indicator that the top for me is not in. Okay, cool. So now, you can put a lot of these things. You can look at a lot of different top indicators, etc. You can look at the news if you want, whatever suits you. But I think that whatever kind of indicator or news or a chart, whatever you look at, says that the Bitcoin top is likely not to be in yet. Cool. So How could that affect altcoins? Well, one thing that you can look at is looking at the total crypto market and the fair value. So if you look at the fair value, you see that the crypto market is now undervalued, right? You could look like, hey, you know, it goes that many x's above the fair value, that many x's, do the math, and then you can come up with like, okay, it could go up 2x above the fair value. That might be $10 trillion, right? Then take it back, right? Take it back to the altcoin market. For example, altcoins now dominate with 7.5%. It's 7.5%. That's how you, I think, put it a little in perspective. Same goes for Cardano, what I was talking about, right? Cardano is now 65 cents. Yeah, that says nothing, because what should we compare it with? Should we compare it with the bottom of this cycle? Should we compare it with the bottom of the last cycle, the last top? Should we compare it to the top that's coming, which we don't know what it is? Let's compare it with something that we do know about. And that's how much, in this case, is Cardano dominating compared to the rest of the market. If you look at that, you can see that Cardano is now dominating with 0.7%, right? It's pretty interesting, by the way. If you look, this pattern are twin brothers. We only need this right now. But then you can feel like, okay, Cardano could dominate with 4%. That puts it a little bit more in perspective, because we know at least what the crypto market is worth right now. It just shows for Cardano, like, hey, Cardano is not taking the market share of that yet. Yeah, here it was also not taking the market share yet, right? But that was coming. If you now take 4% out of the $3.3 trillion that's in the market, 140 billion, it's now 20 billion. Hey, with the current crypto market valuation, Cardano could do a 7x just to go back to the range highs. And that's not price-wise, that's dominance-wise. Right, so a 7x from this point, that gives a different perspective on it, right? That's 600%. That would put Cardano at $4.50. That would be a price if Cardano does the same dominance-wise as what it did the last 2 cycles. That would be that. So that's a way to calculate your individual altcoin. Now again, will that happen? Probably not. But yeah, you should also not ignore that this same, this same, this same, this the same, this same, this the same, this same. Well, hey, I mean, yeah, let's say that that's impossible, right? So if that happens with the current value of the market, then Cardano, for example, can go to $4.50. If this happens and the total crypto market, as diminishing as it is, goes to 10 trillion, still 3x from here, then Cardano could go to 21x. And it sounds crazy, I know, calling 20x's in an alt season bull market, but it is not actually, right? And I know that you know, the sentiment now is like, oh, we won't get an alt season. Yeah, of course, you don't expect an alt season when we're not in it, right? Then you don't feel like it will ever happen. Let's just assume that, you know, every perfectly repeated step is going to be repeated one more time out of the 8. Then that's what happens, right? That could put it at $14. That's a way how I look at it, like, okay, This is within the realistic case. Right? This happened so far every time before, so it would be unrealistic to say that it can't happen. But you want to be cautious within that realism because, hey, it could do better, but it could also do worse. So it could go to $20 definitely, but it could also go to 8 or whatever, right? Could happen. So then go back to your goal and ask yourself, if my goal is a 5x from here, which is 400%, then why would I wait for this price? Because could it happen? Yeah. Is it a given? No. So secure your goal. That's the whole thing. Secure your goal. That's most important. There are a couple cool things that you can look at though. For example, there is the Bitcoin risk indicators, and in the Alpha Factory we post these charts a lot as well. So if you are in the Alpha Factory, hey, you are up to date with this. But the current Bitcoin risk level is 0.3. Bitcoin tops out so far at 0.96, 0.94, 0.965, 0.947, and 0.89. All over the place, but way above 8 at least. And this is not even diminishing, right? This top here was higher than what it was here, or this one here. With the current risk level, and this is based on price, on-chain, and social metrics. Social metrics, YouTube views, subscribers, MVRV Z-score, which are all bottom and top indicators on their own, right? The market cap, risk, the fear and greed index, the ROI, everything combined, basically. Beautiful. We are far from where we top out. Do we have to wait until it gets here? No, maybe it gets to 0.8 this time. Just here. We'll be way lower than all the other times. Could be. But still, we are far, far from that. So you could say to yourself, like, you know what? Whenever we hit 0.78, I start to open my eyes. When it comes to DCAing out of Bitcoin at these risk levels, that's fine. You would have sold Bitcoin here for 40K. Yeah, is it close to the top, 70K? Depends where you bought. Could be close enough, right? If you DCA the low risk levels and you bought around 4K, 5K, 6K, then selling at 40K, you won't regret that. However, in this market, if you did that, 0.7 or so, you would have sold around January 2021. Price-wise, you weren't much off. Time-wise, you were, right? However, altcoins, they topped out slightly different than Bitcoin because alt season started in January 2021. If you look at the altcoin dominance here, then you can see that this is where altcoins started to outperform. So, goal, macro, Bitcoin, and then take it back to altcoins, and then look at your individual alt. So, when you feel like, hey, Bitcoin is starting to be toppy, is that a good moment to get into alts or get out of alts? That depends, I think, a little bit on what you are selling it for. I think most people are planning to sell this cycle into stables. But there are also people that feel like, you know what, I don't care. I want to sell for Bitcoin because eventually, in the longer term, selling for Bitcoin and repeating it like that will make you more money than going from alts to stables to Bitcoin, unless you can time it like perfectly, right? If you look at Bitcoin and you overlay alt season, basically, right, where you have altcoins on their Bitcoin pair, you can see that Bitcoin topped out here. If you would have sold your altcoins right there, fine, you did well. But still, you missed out on a pretty decent altcoin run on their Bitcoin pair. And if you are planning to stack up on Satoshis, yeah, that wasn't great. 2017 was totally not great. Because here is where Bitcoin topped. If you happen to sold at the top, you would have sold altcoins for 0.12 on their Bitcoin pair. They went to 0.29. So they almost 3x'd against Bitcoin. And that's what I mean if your time horizon is long enough. Because yeah, even though we got a Bitcoin bear market right here and a bull market and a bear market, you got 3 times more Bitcoin. Welcome, it's now 2025. Bitcoin is sitting at 100K. You would have not regretted selling your alts for Bitcoin back then. And I think that you won't regret selling your alts for Bitcoin this cycle whenever they top against their Bitcoin pair as well. So in the long run, I do think that that's the best strategy. In the short term, again, people just want to see dollars. And that's understandable. That's what you actually pay your shit with, right? So that's not so crazy. So how do altcoins top out against Bitcoin? Well, we can take a look at the total 3 ES. Total 3, everything excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, and ES says excluding stables. So every alt except ETH in the top 125. If you overlay that, let's overlay that on the Bitcoin chart, you can see that in 2021, Bitcoin, yeah, it had 2 tops, right? It had a top here, and that's where altcoins were sitting at 500 billion. Eventually, slightly later, they went to 650 billion. You might be like, a small difference. For coins outside of the top 125, that made 30x's of differences. Crazy. Here as well, the second run, here AVAX was 2 billion, here it was 25 or something. A lot of alts had an insane run right here. In 2017, they topped kind of simultaneously. Bitcoin in December, altcoins in beginning of January. Therefore, I would say if you plan on selling for dollars, look at Bitcoin top indicators first, because Bitcoin has more history. The top indicators on Bitcoin are also by far not perfect, but more accurate than for the altcoin market. Again, if you look at the altcoin market and you overlay one very popular indicator, which is the Pi cycle top indicator, especially in 2017, if you would have sold your altcoins whenever the Pi cycle top indicator flashed, you would have sold your altcoins for $2-3 billion market cap. Yeah, no biggie. They just went to 80. So this indicator for alts was like, right? No. Luckily, this indicator was made after this period right here, and people could have not used it back here. It was made somewhere here. So in hindsight, I would say zoom out. Look at the total market, because that gives you a picture like, hey, what is actually realistic? You can now not look at an altcoin and like, for here, for example, Arrow. I posted this in the Alpha Factory. That's why you want to be there, by the way. But if you now look at Arrow, and somebody would say this can go to $5. Good. Based on nothing, but it could. But there will probably be people that say, no way. Why no way? Based on what? You don't, You haven't compared it with what's there yet, right? That's the thing. You want to look at the money that there is right now. And therefore, you can take a look at the total crypto market. There's $3.3 trillion in there. Here, there was slightly less money in the 2021 top. Yet, altcoins were like insane. They were doing really well. If you overlay one dead ass altcoin, like DOT, for example, this is what you see. Here was less money in the market. Yet DOT was sitting at $50. Now there's more money in the market, but DOT is sitting at $4. Why? Two reasons. I think one, DOT is just trash. But three, also, because the money is sitting somewhere else in the market right now. And that's not necessarily because this time is different. That's what people like to believe. It's just because we are still in the environment where you are in the typical market cycle. Bitcoin, ETH, alts. That's it. If you look at Bitcoin, this Bitcoin, and if you overlay the altcoin market, what do you notice? This was the Bitcoin all-time high in 2017. Bitcoin broke it right here. Did the altcoin market break its all-time high right there? No, that was here. Still below the all-time high. When did the altcoin market break its all-time high? Here, at this point. Oh, where was Bitcoin sitting? Bitcoin was sitting at 40K, twice above the previous all-time high. I'm not saying we will, but if we do something similar this cycle, then that could mean that Bitcoin first has to go to like $140,000 before this altcoin chart even makes a new all-time high. And therefore, the sentiment is now so bad, right? Oh, Bitcoin mooning, altcoins are not. Yeah, just like last cycle, indeed. And how do you think people felt about altcoins right here? Like, Bitcoin going up 2x above all-time high, altcoins boring, let's get in Bitcoin. And then what happened? Altcoins started to outperform really hard. So the fact that they have not been running yet, like eventually happened last cycle, I think is nothing crazy right here. So when to sell, set your goal within the realms of realism. Right, so look at, for example, right now, $3.3 trillion in the market. The altcoin market is dominating with 7%. Cool. Hey, the domination for the altcoin market is going up over time. All right. Well, let's stay bearish. What if it goes to 20%? What's 20% of $3 trillion? It's more than, or 3.3 even, $660 billion. Right? 660 is here. Cool. But then you can measure more than that because you feel like, let's say, 2.5x from this point. True. 660 is here. 170%. Oh, what did the market do here? Oh, 199, 200, kind of the same. Okay. What altcoins outperformed right here? Why? With how much? Then you can set maybe a little target for yourself to see like, hey, what is realistic? Like Aerodrome, for example. Again, this coin did a 3x since the April lows. 3x. Okay. What did the altcoin market do since the April lows? 40%. Okay, so for this move, at least, Arrow is a huge outperformer, right? So yeah, what could happen to Arrow if the altcoin market on its own finally runs. Yeah, crazy numbers. So all in all, when to sell, I don't know. Sorry. I don't have a date for you if you were coming for that, right? I don't have a date. And I think that everybody that tries to give you a date is not really trying to make the best out of it, actually. What I think, again, set your goal. Look at things like the M2. Look at Bitcoin. Look at the seasonality. Combine it all. Look at the risk in the market. Also, maybe look at your altcoins on an individual risk level, like, for example, AVAX. What it shows that these risk levels, right, they show you like, hey, AVAX here had a top, right? That top happened at risk 1. Here, it had a top as well, happened at 8. Here it had a some kind of a mid-cycle, wasn't a cycle top, right? So that's harder to say, but at least 6.7. It's now sitting at like 3. Try to look like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna aim for the full 1, but not selling below 6. Okay, so what would that price be? Well, 6 is $45. 7 is already $74. It went to 1 before. This has nothing to do with diminishing returns, by the way. Although this happened to be diminishing, but this no diminishing returns included. 1 would be $350. Look at your individual alts, and also look at them on their Bitcoin pair. It's really important, actually. If you look at AVAX on its Bitcoin pair, what the is this? Right? If you look at AVAX on its Bitcoin pair, and the charts are saying like, hey, bear case, right, scenario, it will go to this resistance, and that's it. That's our alt season for this cycle. Be pretty pessimistic, but okay, let's take it, right? For this point, from this point, that's a 2x for AVAX on its Bitcoin pair. If Bitcoin stays the same, that's 2x for AVAX on the dollar pair. And it's now $20, so it goes to $40. Hey, but if Bitcoin goes to 200K, then it's a 4x, right? Then AVAX go to $80. Go back, $80, $80. 0.7. Is that doable? Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Try to look at it like that. But keep on going back to the goal that you have. I think that that's by far most important, right? You do not want to round trip it. Okay, so I want to leave it here for today. Again, sorry if you came for a date. I hope that wasn't your expectation in the first place, because of course I don't have a fucking date. But again, when to sell your alts, when you're close to reaching your goals, and when these indicators flash. Now, in the Alpha Factory, we have a whole sheet upcoming with all these indicators, you know, keeping close track of it, because there are many that you can take a look at. And if you combine them all, then you can come up with a pretty decent average, in my opinion, right? So definitely look at that, and altcoins on the Bitcoin pair again as well. Alts on the Bitcoin pair are showing, we already know what the price of BTC is. So if you know how an alt can do against Bitcoin, then you can calculate a certain price, right? Total 3 on its Bitcoin pair hit the 786. It's usually a level where you bounce. It happens to be big support here as well. It's in a falling wedge, which is a bullish pattern. First target is the 0.5. Second target is the 0.382. Whoa, coincidence. Huge level. And the final target is the one where it came from, basically, but also because this thing is oscillating. Low, low, high. Maybe we go down here. Maybe we bounce here. It's the whole area, basically. Right? But if this is the final target, then it could do 160% against Bitcoin. Best case scenario, in my opinion. But yeah, outperform Bitcoin with 160%, while Bitcoin is 110K. Your altcoins are gonna laugh, right? So, yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video. Check the Alpha Factory down below if you want to get access to all these charts where we can follow the potential top, watch exclusive videos, get on a call with me, follow my portfolio, etc. And I'll see you guys in the next one.